Have you ever just, looked around at the world and been totally blown away by the sheer variety of life? I mean, you've got everything from microscopic bacteria to gigantic blue whales, these bizarre creatures in the deep sea, and even the plants growing in your own backyard. The diversity is it's staggering. But what if I told you that underneath all that wild variety, there's a secret? A universal code that connects every single living thing on this planet. Okay, let's get into it.
The entire story of biology is really this incredible dance between two huge ideas. On one side, you have this absolutely mind-boggling variety of life forms, but on the other, you have this shocking, almost unbelievable similarity in how they all work at their most basic level. And that's the puzzle we're going to try and solve together in this explainer.
All right, so let's take two things that seem about as different as you can possibly imagine. Over here on the left, you've got some seaweed, right? A pretty simple organism just hanging out on a rock. And on the right, a mouse, a complex, warm-blooded mammal. They live in totally different worlds, they look nothing alike, they act completely differently. So here it is, the big question. Looking at these two, what on earth could they possibly share? I mean, for real, when you get down to their core, is there any connection at all? It seems kind of impossible, right? But the answer isn't just yes. It's a massive, profound yes.
And here's our first big clue. It comes from a trailblazing biologist, E.B. Wilson. He figured out that to really understand life, you have to think small. See, every living thing is either a single cell or, like you and me, a giant community of cells that all started from one. The cell, that's the common ground. It's the unit that ties everything together. Okay, so if all life is built from cells, what connects the cells themselves? Well, every cell, and I mean every cell, needs a set of instructions, a master blueprint. And it turns out, every cell on Earth, doesn't matter if it's in a plant, an animal, or a fungus, uses the exact same system to store that blueprint.
And this is it. Deoxyribonucleic acid. You probably know it as DNA. This beautiful, elegant double helix structure is basically life's hard drive. Every single piece of hereditary information, for that seaweed, for that mouse, and for you, it's all stored right here in this one molecule. It's the master plan for building and running the entire show.
And here's the part that's just wild. This huge library of information, the entire epic story of life, isn't written in some super complex language. Nope, it's written with a simple four-letter alphabet. A for adenine, T for thymine, C for cytosine, and G for guanine. That's it. Just four letters write every instruction for every living thing.
So how does life make a perfect copy of this blueprint, generation after generation? Through this brilliant process called templated polymerization. The easiest way to think about it is like this. The DNA helix just unzips right down the middle. Each of those halves then becomes a perfect template, kind of like a mold to build a new partner strand. And the rules are super simple. A always pairs with T, and C always pairs with G. It's this elegant, totally foolproof system for making a perfect copy every single time.
Okay, so having the information stored away is one thing. But, a blueprint that just sits on a shelf is pretty useless, right? You've got to be able to read it and actually use it to build stuff. So how does the cell turn that simple A, T, C, G code into a living, breathing organism?
Well, this next idea is one of the most fundamental concepts in all of biology. It's called the central dogma. And what it means is that information flows in one direction. It starts with the permanent master blueprint, the DNA, gets copied into a temporary working photocopy called RNA, and that photocopy is then used to build the final product, which is a protein.
Let's break that down real quick. So, step one is transcription. Imagine the DNA as a super rare, precious book in a library that you can't check out. Transcription is like making a quick photocopy of just one page. That photocopy, that's RNA. Then comes translation. That RNA photocopy is taken out to the factory floor, where a little molecular machine called a ribosome reads the instructions. And finally, protein synthesis. The ribosome just follows those instructions step by step to build a specific protein.
So what are these proteins we keep talking about? Well, they're basically everything. They are the bricks and the mortar that build the cell. They are the little messengers carrying signals around. They're the machines. They do almost all the work, especially as enzymes that make all the chemical reactions happen that keep you alive. They are what put the genetic code into action.
So we've seen that all life uses the same stuff, DNA, to store its information, and the same basic process to read it. But now,
Now we get to the most mind-blowing, jaw-dropping part of this whole story, the language itself.
And here it is, the deepest secret of all. The genetic code is universal. Just let that sink in for a second. The set of rules the cell uses to translate the RNA code into a protein is exactly the same in a bacterium as it is in a mushroom, a fish, a tree, or you. It's life's Rosetta Stone, and it is the single most powerful piece of evidence we have that every living thing on this planet is related, that we all come from a single common ancestor.
I mean, think about how crazy this is. You can literally take a gene from a human cell, let's say the one that has the instructions for making insulin. A human cell reads it, builds human insulin. No surprise there. But get this, you can take that exact same human gene and pop it into a simple little bacterium. And the bacterium's machinery will read those foreign instructions perfectly and start pumping out the exact same human protein. The language is identical.
So from now on, when you hear us talk about a gene, this is what we mean. It's not some abstract concept. It is a physical stretch of DNA, a specific sequence of those A, T, C, and G letters that contains the complete instruction manual for building one specific protein.
Okay, let's pull the camera back now and look at the big picture we've just put together. We started out with this incredible, sprawling diversity of life, but we've dug down and found the secret shared story, a story of just astonishing unity at the molecular level. And just to show you that this whole thing isn't impossibly complicated, check this out. One of the simplest, tiniest, free-living organisms we know of, a little bacterium called Mycoplasma genitalium, it gets by with only about 530 genes. The entire instruction manual for a living thing can be surprisingly small. So, there you have it. This is the universal toolkit for life on Earth. Every living thing, every single one, stores its blueprint in DNA. Everyone copies it the same way. They all make RNA photocopies, they all use proteins as their little workhorses, and they all read the instructions using the exact same genetic code. From the seaweed to the mouse to us, this is what we all have in common.
Which, of course, brings us right back to our original mystery, but now it has this amazing new twist. We've just proven that every organism uses the same language and the same machinery to read its genetic instruction book. So, that leaves us with the final, most important question of all. If the manual is written in the same language for everyone, then what is it that creates all of life's incredible, beautiful, breathtaking diversity?